Hi everyone, I'm Shadashurao and welcome to Sada Learning Hub. Today's session we are going to learn attributes in JSP. See here, attribute. If you see attribute means you can share a values to a one JSP page or to another JSP or one JSP to the servlet. For example, the attributes holds the some values. The attributes are used to share the local values of a servlet or a JSP with another servlet or a JSP. I can give you how we can share the values to one JSP to the servlet or one JSP to the another JSP, like all those things. If you see, attributes are used to share the local values of a servlet or a JSP with another servlet or a JSP. To share an attribute or a value using an attribute mechanism, for each attribute, some scope must be assigned. If you see your JSP page, there is a four scopes are available. Those are page scope, request scope, session scope, and application scope. If you want to share an if you want to share a one value to a one JSP to the another JSP or one JSP to the one another servlet, we need to mention a scope of that attribute. The scope indicates the lifetime of an attribute in an application. If you are mentioning the scope, it gives you the lifetime of your attribute. For example, if you are putting the page scope, means it will be the attribute it lives or it will be visible to your page scope itself, that page itself. For example, your attribute, put it into your request scope. Means whatever you are putting in the attribute or a value, that will be visible to your throughout the request scope. Whenever your request scope is going to kill, automatically your value is also going to invisible. Like that. In the JSP, we can assign the any one of four scopes for an attribute. In the earlier videos, I am going to discuss about what are the different scopes in the JSP page. If you want, just you can go through that video. If you see here, there is a four scopes are available in the JSP. Those are page scope, request scope, session scope, and application scope. Whenever you are creating an attribute, definitely we need to assign any of the scope to your attribute. Otherwise, it's not possible. Definitely, we need to must and should we can assign our attribute to any of these four scopes. Those are page scope, request, session, and application scope. To assign the page scope for an attribute, we need to page context object but not a page object. For example, we are going to assign our one attribute to our page scope. Whenever you are assigning a attribute to your page scope, definitely we need to create an object of page context. After that, we can assign your attribute to your page scope. I will show you how it can create a page context object and how we can assign the page scope. If you see here, simply I'm going to create, I'm assigning the one value to your page scope. Now this is my page context object dot set attribute of, I'm adding the attribute k1, attribute name, and the attribute value is this one. Now if you see this statement, I'm adding a attribute k1. The attribute name is called k1 and the attribute value is java. I'm adding the attribute k1 in the page scope. The value java is added to the page scope. The in this Example, page scope assigned the value Java. Now we can assign this page scope in the different format. If you see, by default, if we are not putting any value, by default it is going to the page scope. We can assign page scope like this also. If you are mentioned 1, if you are mentioned 1, that is also page scope. Or if you are mentioned like this is also going to page scope. Page context class dot page underscore page underscore scope. If you see here any one of these three lines, we can assign a value, we can assign an attribute into your page scope. If you see this one, this is a public static final variable. In this way, there is a here there is a four scopes are available. We can page scope is equal to 1, request scope is equal to 2, session scope is equal to 3, and application scope is equal to 4. If you mention, we can put it a value, or we can mention it the value, it's okay, fine. Or we can mention directly a variable name, automatically it will be substituted into a value. All these public static final variables are available into the public context class. This is going under page context, page scope. If you want to put a k1 value into a request scope, just we can mention it to 2. If you want to in a session scope, just mention it to 3. If you want to application scope, just put it 4. Like that we can use it. We can mention any one of this. If you, we can use this one, or we can use this one. By default, it is going to the page scope. If you want to create a request or session or application scope, definitely we need to follow any one of these two lines, any one of these two lines. Now, next, all these are available into the Java X dot. All these public static final variables are available into the Java X dot servlet dot JSP dot page context abstract class. All these four values are available into this abstract class. Now I'm going to discuss about how to assign a request scope for an object. If you want, this is the page scope. Now I'm going to discuss about request scope, how to assign the values into the request scope. If you want to assign the values into the request scope, just we can put it request dot set attribute of, we can put it k1 comma java. We can do it like this also. If you want to assign into the request scope, we can do it like this, or we can follow any one of these ways. If you want, we can put it at here 2, and we can put it at here request. We can follow any one of this. Okay, right? If you want to assign the values into the session scope, just we can use If you want to follow the session scope, just we can mention same like that only. This is called session scope. I want to assign the values into the session scope. Just I am using session object dot set attribute of k1 comma java. We can add it like this. Now I'm putting at it here 3. This is my session scope. Here I'm putting page context dot session dot session underscore scope. This is going to the session scope. If you want to assign the application level, if you want to add the attribute in the application level scope, just we can use it application object dot set attribute. AppLicatin application dot set attribute of k1 comma java. We can use it like this. Now I am passing the value for, I am using application dot application underscore scope. We can use any one of these ways. If you want to assign the attribute in this page scope, we can use any one of these way. Or if you want to assign an attribute to a request level scope, we can use any one of this way. Or if you want to use session, or if you want to use application, if you want to use any one of these three options, we can use it any one of these three options. Now a page context object is not only for assigning a page scope, but also for all the request session and application scopes. If you see here, this is the page context scope. Directly I'm assigning the page scope of, attribute. If you want to assign a multiple means remaining scopes, just we can add it with the overloaded parameters. If you want to just pass the parameters like this way also, it's possible. Now how we can read the attributes from the scope. Now we are setting, oh shit. Now you are seeing how to set the values from the scope. It's fine. Now your turn is, now just know we are how to set the values into a page scope and a request scope, session scope and application scope. That is fine. Now your turn is how to access the values. That is the thing. If you want to access the values, just we can create a page context object, whatever the object we are putting. If you want to read an attribute from a page scope, then we must use the page context object only. If you want to do it, we can create an object of object o is equal to page context dot get attribute of I'm inserting k1. This is my key. If you see here, this is my key. Now, whatever value you are putting corresponding to the key K1, that value will be stored into the object O. After that, we can do it typecasting into the string. We can, whatever object, we can just do it into the typecast. If you want, for example, we are inserting your object into the request scope level. Now, if you want that K1 object, we are put it into the request scope level also. In that case, just we can put it to whatever the request scope level that K1 attribute is there. Just that will be get it into your plate. Or if you want to use like this also, just comma paste context dot request scope. This is the way also we will get an value of a particular attribute. These are the different ways. Any of these way we will get a value of a particular attribute into the different scopes. Next, I'm going to discuss, okay, we are knowing about how to set the attribute into a any one of the four scopes, and how the values whatever the values we are putting, we are setting by using page context object, we are know how to get the values also, values of a particular attribute. Now, I'm going to discuss about what is the difference between page context dot get attribute and page context dot find attribute methods. If you see, there is a two attributes are available into the page context. The first one is page context dot get attribute, and the second one is page context dot find attribute. These are the two methods are available. These are the so many methods are available. I'm going to discuss what are the difference between get attribute and the find attribute. If you see, get attribute method will only checks for the key in the given scope. If not exist, then it returns the null. Just it is going to check whenever we are calling the page context dot get attribute, whatever attribute key you are given into that particular method. Whenever you are giving that, automatically the container will going to check that particular attribute key is available or in that particular scope or not. If it is available, just it returns the value. If it is not available, just it returns the null value. See here, if you see find attribute method, the find attribute method will check for the key in a given scope. If it is not exist, then its high level scopes it not found, then it returns the true. For example, if you are using the find attribute page context dot find attribute of k1, you are giving the attribute key value, key name. Just the container going to check it is available in the page scope or not first. The k1 attribute key, the attribute key k1, it is available, it is going to check the container it is available in the page context or not. If it is available, it returns the value of the k1. If it is not available, immediately it is going to check the next level of the scope. Means the page context next level scope is request scope. It is going to check the value is available in the request scope or not. That attribute is available in the request scope or not. If it is available, it returns the value. If it is not available, it is going to check the high level scopes. Means after request scope, it is going to check the session scope. If it is available, it returns. It is not available, it is going to check the application level scope. If it is available, it returns value. If it is not available, it returns null. Why? Because there is no scopes are available, high level scopes. That's why it is going to return the null values. This is going to go uh, to execute the find attribute. Means finally get attribute, it checks whatever the scope you are given, it is going to check that particular scope only. But find attribute is going to check all the scopes. If it is available in the all the scopes, it returns the value. If it is not available, just it returns the null value. The next, while doing, while saying, I got the one more doubt, one more question. If the page scope is non-shareable, then why page scope is given in the JSP page? If you see here in the request scope, in the request is scope, for example, we are started the one request. It may be we are using in the request scope multiple JSP pages. We can use it. You can share the values or you can share the attributes into that multiple JSP page. In the application scope, we can use it all the JSP page. In the session scope, in that particular session, whatever the JSP pages we are going to use, we can use that attribute into that session level JSP pages. But coming to the page scope means we are accessing the particular attribute or values into that particular JSP only. In that case, why the page scope is comes into the picture? That is the question. If the page scope is non-shareable from JSP to JSP, but it is shareable from JSP its associated tag handler classes. See here, it is shareable across the tag handler classes. Means here the new terms comes into the picture. What is the tag handler class? If you want to know the tag handler class, it is used in the custom tags in JSP. Just go through my previous video, custom tags in JSP. In that custom tags JSP video, I am clearly explained how tag handler class is going to create and all those things I am clearly explained in the custom tags.jsp. I'm going to clearly I'm going covered in that tag handler class. Anyways, I'm going to briefly explain the tag handler class. If you want to create a custom tag, we need to know, we need to must and should minimum we need to create a 4 files. Those first one is tag handler class, second one is tld file, third one is web.xml, and fourth one is one JSP page. If you want to create a tag handler class, these are the 4 files need to create when you are creating a one custom tag. Now here tag handler class. Why you are creating a tag handler class? Whatever if you see any JSP tag, it has some predefined functionality. If you want to create some functionality to your tag, we need to create a tag handler class. That is called tag handler class. Whatever you are creating your custom tag, it has some predefined it has some functionality. That functionality we need to put it into your tag handler class. Whatever the tag handler class we are created, just we need to put it into your tld file. We need to configure your tag handler class into your tld file. The tld file we need to put it into your web.xml file, and the web.xml file that is completed. If you want to check your custom tag, just we need to create a one JSP page. Just we can use it your custom tag into your JSP page. If you want to clear to know how the tag handler class, just go through your custom tag video. Just know a full picture about a tag handler class. That's why page scope comes into the picture. Finally, page scope is not shareable from the JSP to JSP, but it is shareable from JSP to associated tag handler classes. That's okay, fine. Now, in my mind, I am going in the one more question is raised. That is, page scope is not given in the serverlet technology. Yes, page scope is not given in the servlet technology because there is no tag handler class in the servlet technology. That's why page scope is not available. In the page scope, there is a session level, request level scope is there, session level scope is there, application level scope is there. But page scope is not there. Why? Because there is no tag handler class concept in the servlet technology. That's why there is no page scope is available in the servlet technology. See here, I'm going to explain a simple example on this attributes in JSP. I will show you all those things. Just I'm closing this project. Yes, now done. See here, I'm creating a small web application that is called attributes. Example on attributes on JSP. In this, simply I'm creating a three JSP pages, that is attribute demo a.jsp, attribute demo b.jsp, and attribute demo c.jsp. In this, I am assigning the attributes to scopes. See here. In this scope, I'm adding pageContext.setAttribute. Just I'm assigning the K1 attribute into the page level scope. Means the K1 only accessible to in this particular page only. It's not possible to access in throughout the page. If you see pageContext.setAttribute of K2 attribute, I'm assigning the K2 attribute into the request level scope. See here, right? I'm assigning K2 attribute into request level scope. If you see here pageContext.setAttribute, I'm assigning K3 attribute into a session level scope. Once the session is going to end, automatically the K3 attribute is also going to end. If you see pageContext.setAttribute of K4, I'm setting K4 into a application level scope. If you see here, just I'm printing the values, I'm getting the values of that objects. Just I'm find attributes. Find attribute means it will be going to check all the scopes. I'm whatever the values I'm putting, just I'm printing the object O1, O2, O3 and O4. If you see in this here also I'm printing whatever the scopes I am put it into the demo attribute demo a.jsp. Just I am finding it here. Now I will run and I will show you what is the differences. Run on server. Next, here so many applications are there. I'm going to remove all these applications. I want to run only one application. Okay, already my server is started. If you see here, this is my attribute demo.jsp. In this my attribute demo.jsp, I am putting each one in the different scopes. This is K1 is the page scope, K2 is the request scope, K3 is the session scope, K4 is the application scope. Means here I am forwarding my JSP page into attribute demo b.jsp. Here I am receiving the values K1. K1 is not available. Why? Because here I am creating an attribute K1 into the page scope. Means it can be accessible only within the page or in tag handler classes. Now that's why it is not available in this particular page. After that K2 is available. I am creating in the request scope. That's why it is printing it here and K3 I am printing in the JSP request session scope and K4 in the application level scope. Now I am to I am going to prepare attribute attribute demo c dot jsp. Attribute capital demo capital c dot jsp. What I'm getting exception is this is somewhat different. If you see here, directly I'm accessing the values. This is the new request. Means just now I'm entered at here. That is why it is the new request. Now here K1 is the page scope. That's why it is not visible at here. K2 is the request scope. See here, whenever I am raising the request, this is the one request. After that, I am hitting the attribute demo c.jsp. That is the another request. That's why K2 is not available. K3 is the session scope. That's why it is available. K4 is the application level scope. That's why it is available at in this page. Now, I'm going to check. I'm going to check. Now, this is the one session. I'm going to check in the different browser. Means new session. I'm going to check in the new session. If you see here, this is the new session. That's why it is printing it here. I'm trying this. See, this is the new session. That's why it already here session is created. That's why it is printing this one. I'm going to check it here. I will try this one. Third one is also going to null. That's what I am going to show you. Control V. If you see here, third one is going null. Why? Because this is the K1 value, page scope. This is the null K2 value. This is in the request scope. This is in the session scope. Means here it is the one session. After that, here I am creating another session. Means why? Because it is not showing at null at here. Why? Because just now I am putting demo a.jsp. Whenever I am hitting up to project, it will be go to at here automatically. Those are injecting the all the attributes automatically. It will be forwarded into this one. That's why in the Google Chrome it is showing like this. Now directly I am hitting attribute demo c.jsp. Now this is my new session. The session is not available. This is the new session. That's why it is not it new session. That's why the K3 is not available. That is why it's going to null. This is an application level scope. That's why it is visible at here. That's the these are the different ways to access attributes into your JSP. We can use your attributes and we can find and we can get the attributes into your JSP.
Thank you so much watching this video. Hope this lesson helpful to you. Keep watching our lessons. Keep writing to us. Do not forget subscribe our channel Learning Hub because we have many sessions that would help you to develop our skills and I will be back soon. Till then you take care. Bye bye.